I like to eat apples and bananas.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. No, this is the podcast, not our children's nursery rhymes that live rent-free in our head constantly for 24/7.
Oh, summer holiday madness.
We are absolutely going crazy. Guys, hello, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And it has been a short little while, hasn't it? Because we just couldn't be bothered.
Couldn't be bothered because we were just relaxing so much.
I think it's been a 3-week break.
Yeah.
And I think people have been on tenterhooks.
Yeah.
Wait, is that the saying? Tender or tenterhooks? We're starting off strong, guys.
I'll tell you what, it's not the one you think it is, Dylan.
I don't know. They've been waiting with bated breath for us to return.
No, it's baby breath.
Don't talk to me about baby breath. I've got some news, starting off really quickly.
Okay.
I am now a Gymshark athlete.
Oh, I can tell, yeah, from the Gymshark clothing that you're wearing.
I am a Gymshark, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy some clothes. And I hate shopping. And I think you're the same as me. You mentioned this before, where I don't actually ever want in my life. I've never thought, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to get out of my comfy, warm home.
Yeah.
Drive somewhere in horrible traffic.
Lots of people?
Lots of people. Try and park where it's really hard to park because everyone's going there for some reason. Leave my car. Go into a shop which is absolutely rammed full of other people.
Lots of people still.
Lots of people. Loads of people who I don't know and don't want to be anywhere near. And spend an hour picking up clothes, touching them, putting them back.
Yeah.
That other people have also done that for the last however long. Going to a fitting room and try clothes on, half of which don't fit. Just get annoyed at myself.
Well, up to that point, I was going to say this sounds like going to school and sorting through the lost property. But it's changing.
Well, I also don't like doing that. Anyway, I hate shopping essentially. And so when I decide I'm going shopping, I go, cool, I'm going to buy 57 tops so I don't have to come again for 3 years. So that's basically where we're at. I'm a Gymshark athlete that is sponsored without any money being given to me. Instead, I give Gymshark the full 100% of what they're owed.
And you get to look really cool. I wish this is annoying me a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You know exactly why it's annoying me a little bit, don't you? You know exactly why it's annoying me a little bit.
I don't know at all why this is annoying.
Because I wish we could do little flashbacks on this, you know, like a little show. Because we can imagine.
What is the past, if not a figment of our imagination?
I think what the past is you taking the mick out of me for honestly more like years, multiples of years. Because I had some Gymshark clothing, and you're like, "Oh, Gymshark, go to the gym, are you? Go to the gym, Hayden. Oh, with that belly, go to the gym, are you? Oh, doesn't look like you've been going to the gym, does it, Hayden? Doesn't look like it."
Two things. Number one, shut up. And number two, be quiet.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm much more active than you are. You
how
know this.
the tables have turned.
Anyway, so let's move on. How have you found summer holidays? Because I'm reading your notes.
Yeah.
Because they're right there in front of us.
You mean the notes that you got on Instagram a minute ago?
They're absolutely empty.
A lack of.
Find us on Instagram, by the way, at Teach, Sleep, Repeat Podcast. Oh, and find us on Blue Sky. We're going to talk to you about that in a minute. Anyone from Blue Sky, hi. We'll come to you, don't worry. But why are you knackered constantly? It says knackered constantly. That's it. There's no, you're not expanded on that at all. Why are you,
like how you're
knackered
because it's a podcast, you're like, I've got to pretend I don't know why, as if I'm not living the same life. I tell you why I'm knackered constantly, Dylan, and maybe you'll experience
listeners who just don't know.
Yeah, because we've got 2 little children. They're both under 1 year old, and summer holidays have been constantly knackering because she's up all the time.
I saw a post the other day that was something like, hands up if you're also a parent and therefore summer holidays aren't remotely restful.
This is the least energetic I've felt in my whole life. I'm so exhausted.
Good job of doing an episode about getting ready for September.
Yeah, I know. But even like Lauren and I yesterday were saying, like, kind of looking forward to going back to work. It's going to be a break. Oh.
I wonder if it must be the hardest summer when they're under 1. The first summer with them. You know what I mean? Please tell me.
This is one of those moments where people listen and be like, oh, so naive.
Well, my point is, like, I went to London. My cousin was down visiting. So me and him went to London the other day. And at almost every opportunity, I was like, oh, I just can't wait for Rory to be older. Because I could bring him to this, optical illusion museum. He'd love it. Or we went into Hamleys just to see if we get him a toy. And I was like, oh,
nice.
When he's like 3, 4, 5, 6, he's going to love it here. It's going to be like all these things unlock. Because at the minute, he can barely like pay attention to the Gruffalo for more than 3 pages. So it's just not a point where I can take him out to do stuff. And all it is at the minute is just, can you just keep him alive? And also, can you pick him up every time he rapidly sprints off crawling into somewhere where he shouldn't be? Wait a minute. I've got 7 lovely toys my parents have got for me. Or I could go and headbutt the radiator.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that plug looks real juicy for my fingers.
I think instead of my clicky toy, I'm going to click the on-off switch on that little plug over there behind the sofa.
I know.
Oh my God, it's relentless.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've always thought that, 'cause, like, cuddly toys, right? Yeah, that's just a staple thing for babies and kids, isn't it? So, like, River got bought loads when she was little. She, honest to God, so far has not been interested in them. One time I made a ring of cuddly toys around her thinking, oh, this will be nice. She'll like go and play with one. She literally just moved them out of the way and went straight to the rad. Again, I don't know what it is about rad, because she wanted to play with the valve. I was like, oh, these toys here, all these little cute little rabbits and stuff. Like, what's wrong with you?
They should sell model radiators at toy shops.
Yeah, they
just
should.
so the kids, and then maybe they won't like it because they've been bought specifically for them.
Yeah, oh, it's a toy now.
I always remember our baby group, and they were like, they're not clever enough yet. They can't manipulate you. They're not going for you. They just do stuff because they're babies. They're going for you. They're going for me. When I lay out 10 toys, like, oh, I spent a combined 250 quid on what's on this little mat, which was also £100 off this website that someone said was really good for babies. Why don't you crawl off it as quickly as you can out of the door into the part that's not floored in our house? There's no floor, it's dirty, and and he becomes transfixed by this little bit of black fluff. If there's any black little bit of fluff or rubbish or anything on the floor, he whizzes to it and he just starts like stroking it with his finger as if to say, look Dad, look what I found. How have you done that?
I'm not supposed to be here, am I?
I know, the amount of time just to pick them up, turn them round, and he's like, I want to go where I'm not supposed to go. Knackery.
Anyway, there you go. That's a little baby.
Love them though.
Love them, love them. As you can tell,
got to say that at the end.
Yeah, you do. You have to say it. People don't think it. People don't think it.
No.
We do love them, but they're hilarious. Anything else happened recently?
No, I think Blue Sky I was going to talk about briefly. I'm on Blue Sky. I set up Blue Sky as like a teach, sleep, repeat thing. So that'd be a nice way to, market the podcast of this. Set it out. And I was like, because Hayden does absolutely nothing in terms of the socials, obviously. That's nice. Just move the camera more onto him. And so I'm out of shot now. So
no, I was fully out of shot.
So brilliant. That's how we wanted it.
I thought,
a bit like Blue Sky.
I was trying to do it subtly. And you've made a big point of it now.
Well, started Blue Sky as like a joint account.
Yeah.
Put like the podcast cover as the display picture, TC repeat, Dylan and Hayden. And I was like, cool, just both of us. And I got 2 posts in, and I was like, Hayden's never going to log into it. So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to do a personal Blue Sky account. I'm just going to set up just me, get rid of the dead weight, just call it Teach, Sleep, Repeat, but have my name there as well.
You got you and Alistair Campbell. You're hoping still.
Exactly that. So we got Blue Sky now, and basically we never got into Twitter. We never ever got into Twitter, and this whole thing of edu Twitter, and it seemed like Marmite. I don't know. There's some people who seem really sad that Twitter's dying. For obvious reasons, won't go into, but Twitter's like just fallen off a cliff. Some people seem really sad about that because they've obviously built up a community. They've got a lot of people, followers and just people they've bonded with, and there was like a safe space for them to talk about books and get excited about things. And there's just been this big exodus over to Blue Sky. But I never really got into Twitter. I felt like sometimes it was a bit cliquey. A little bit so hard to kind of get your foot in the door if you're not already there, kind of thing, not already established. Smaller voices were kind of not pushed out, but the big voices were amplified. Yeah,
because it was around for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And there's people with historic, followings and stuff, and just it felt like their opinions had more weight, and you couldn't really, I'm not trying to take over the website, but you just want to put your point across and have discussions with people. I found it hard to do that. Yeah. Anyway, we're on Blue Sky now, and I don't know if it's the algorithm, I don't know if it's people's attitudes, I don't know if it's the type of people who've left and come over to Blue Sky, but it feels way more collaborative, way more open. I've spoken to people I've never spoken to before. There might even be some people listening now who've literally listened to the podcast. We've not posted in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but we've had like the listens every single day as if we've been posting a new episode. So there's obviously new people out there, so grateful if you've come along. But I just felt like I could post a question about education or homework or whatever it might be, and I'd have 15 other fellow teachers just give me their opinion. Yeah, and it was really nice to not just be in that echo chamber of me and you, because we think very similarly.
I'm going to stay in the echo chamber, just so you know. I can't wait to not go on Blue Sky. I'm staying right here. I'm here for you guys. Listen, I'm committed to you, the podcast viewers. I don't do anything outside of this podcast. I only speak here. You get raw opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. The only place where you can't possibly have anyone talk back to you. That's where you're comfortable.
I don't know. Mr. Talkback.
That's why I'm here, to keep you accountable. But yeah, anyway, Blue Sky, big shout out for Blue Sky. We're on there. Teach, sleep, repeat. That's it. We didn't need to do anything else because it was like new. Teach, sleep, repeat. So another handle.
Hey, but at least we got the handle this time.
Yeah, I know, right? But there is 17 handles on all different things. I don't think there's one handle the same.
We've got Teach, sleep, repeat, Teach, sleep, repeat pod, and we've got Teach, sleep, repeat podcast.
Good. Just type Teach, sleep, repeat and hope for the best. Wherever you get your stuff from. But yeah, anyway, I've been really enjoying it. I've been posting on there. I'm going to post about this. And yeah, if you're a listener from Blue Sky, let me know. Message me on Blue Sky. Hayden won't see it, but I will.
No, yeah, nice. Yeah. That's good. Well, it's funny. I zoned out while you were talking because all I was thinking about was how I'm saving the planet.
Okay,
I just can't stop thinking about it.
This is the last thing before we get in. Right.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Hayden, I know what you're going to say.
Oh, do you?
What is it? Go on.
Look.
What have you done?
Dylan, I mean, you guys probably understand. Dylan doesn't get it, but I recently sold both our cars, me and Lauren.
Was it both your massive gas guzzling cars that you've only got
were destroying the planet? Yeah, sold them.
Was it the ones where you both have your own car but go to the same place of work but drive separately because you need 10 minutes apart, so doubling the impact of the environment?
That bit is irrelevant.
Right, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
But the point is, I sold both cars. We went electric. We're electric cars. Because I looked at you, actually, and I thought, that man is really destroying this planet for his own benefit. And it's really selfish. So we thought, let's not be like him.
No, fair enough, yeah.
And so thank you for being the catalyst to our thoughts. But we've got electric cars now.
Catalyst? Catalytic converter.
Yeah, thanks for being that. So I drive electric cars now only. And I don't want to bring it up.
No.
I don't want to bring it up all the time. I'm not going to bring it up all the time. But I just, just think about the planet next time you drive around in your big car, all right? Just think about it.
Winds me up, because we all know it's important to look after the planet. But you do have a high horse to be on now, because electric cars are obviously better.
The battery. No, it doesn't matter where the battery goes at the end. Doesn't matter. What matters is whilst I'm driving it.
It's that big, massive, toxic battery which can't be recycled, and at the end just goes into a landfill.
Yeah, goes back to Mother
Looks like
Nature.
you're really taking this seriously. How often do you water your grass in your garden?
Just a lot more now. There's a massive battery buried in it because the first one's already gone.
I posted something about aircon, and just to be straight to everyone listening, we obviously know climate change is a thing. We're not climate change deniers or anything like that, and it's really important to be eco and green and stuff like that. I get it. I posted something that said, when are we going to concede the fact that in the UK we do actually need aircon in a lot of our buildings? Because and the classic points, people replied, they were laughing like, yeah, sure. There were people replying going, oh, when it's more than 3 days a year. And I was like, well, it is more than 3 days a year now, isn't it? Because it was like 2.5 weeks in a row. But I get it. It's not enough to justify a big AC unit.
But it's on the edge though, isn't it?
It's getting there. Yeah, it's gonna get there at some point. And then some people just replied really seriously, like almost annoyed at me for suggesting it. Like, do you realise that running an AC unit is worse for the environment than anything else? Okay, I'd reply cordially, going, "Oh, it's a really good point. I guess so." But like, at what point do you just have to be like, "Oh, I know," but like until there's green energy that's cheap for me, I'm gonna have to do stuff like this. Like, I know it's a self-perpetuating cycle, but I don't think average Joe is the person who's going to be the person to change everything. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, I won't ever do that. I'll just live in horrible heat. Did Taylor Swift just do an 18-minute private jet ride? Oh, she did.
For the 19th time this month.
Yeah, that's fine though. That's fine. Like, there's just so many other people and corporations and big things to go after.
I find that I was about to take the mick out of you, but I just want to jump in because I feel the same. You know I do. But I find that really, 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 really hard. When it's the little personal choices that are maybe bad for anything, I'm always like, oh, but there is just a corporation out there producing my lifetime's worth of waste
and more
in any category in an hour. I just can't get over it. And I know every little bit helps, but it's so hard to think like I'm going to suffer in the heat now.
Yeah.
Rather than, or just contribute this minuscule tiny amount.
It's
a horrible battle. Has to come from top down. I think there needs to be things in place like clean energy and things from the top down, like a big, massive scale.
Yeah. Well, electric cars are literally twice the price of normal cars. Of course, average Joe is not going to do it. You did it because you're stupid. But I'm joking.
I did it because the price come down.
No, I'm joking. Like after a year and a half, you're like, oh, electric cars, their prices come down really quickly. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's only because they're inflated at the start. It's probably roughly what it should cost right now.
I'll tell you why they've come down massively, because I've realised now I'm in the game. Yeah. It's because they're getting rid of all of the benefits for people of buying electric cars. It's not as...
It's going backwards, isn't it?
Yeah,
because a big perk was no road tax, right?
Yeah, no road tax and like all the ULEZ stuff. It was all free for that. Yeah. And from next year, all of that's coming back in place and it's completely, not even like discounted. It's just level with petrol. And
so what is the incentive to go electric?
Well, there isn't an incentive anymore. There used to be an incentive in terms of they used to pay for the box that you put on your wall as well. Like there used to be a grant anyway. So
and
the
like tax and stuff. Yeah,
and the tax. All of that's gone now.
So why though? Like I don't understand.
I don't know. I think probably just money, isn't it? They just need more money back. But I guess enough people are driving electric cars now.
Why is it the green things that are rolling back? It's annoying, isn't it?
Oh, it's because it didn't really matter. Didn't really care in the first place. They didn't really care about green, did they?
A lot of people do. Loads of people do. Yeah.
Sales.
Oh no. Yeah, the companies don't care, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, people do.
That's what I mean.
But I think the government really cared when they did these.
No, but
now enough people are driving electric cars. They're not making enough in road tax. They're like, oh, actually,
you need the road tax.
Yeah, don't care about green. We just want road tax now because there's too many electric cars.
Gotta go all in. Anyway, we've been chatting a lot. It's been a nice little catch up. That's quite random. Should we get into actually why people are here? 15 minutes into the episode.
So yeah.
All right, play the jingle. Hayden, tell you one thing we've never done.
Please.
How to get ready for September in a podcast. Never done that.
Please. Oh,
Don't
yes.
rewind 12 months.
Nope. Don't rewind. Rewind?
Rewind,
Don't
baby!
rewind this podcast.
Is that when you have an orange, you don't want it anymore?
Rewind. That was quick. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Shall I? I've got some oranges downstairs, actually. I've got a juicer. See if you know that. Again, better for the planet, isn't it? Just juicing my own oranges. I'm not paying a big corporation. Factories. Don't worry about it.
What would be better for the planet is if you didn't have 8 oranges every time you want a drink. That would be better.
Yeah, that's a bit of a waste, isn't it?
Anyway, we're here talking about September because I don't know if you realise, guys, but as of this podcast being released, it's the end of August, which means if you're in the UK, you're about to go back to school. So we get loads of messages, and a lot of them are from ECTs, people who just finished training or are training, getting their first jobs, and they've asked specifically, can I have some tips? Yeah, as an ECT, obviously, but as September, I don't know what you mean.
They've asked specifically.
Oh,
me
yeah, me. Yeah, not you, because you're not on any other stuff. But they want some tips for September. And I thought, do you know what would be really cool? Let's just do a generic episode. Anyone in teaching, whether they've been doing it for 20 years, 5 years, or if it's their first ever year, they could find it useful just to go over some of the key things and how you can hit the ground running in September and have a really successful start to the year. Because I would go so far to say that first month is probably the most important month in embedding routines.
Yeah, definitely.
Establishing relationships and getting teaching started really early. So let's talk about it. Let's get into how we can start September off really well. And a big one that I'm really passionate about, and I know you've spoken a lot in the past about how you've developed in this area, is behaviour.
Yeah.
And some of the myths around behaviour in September and how to kind of bust them. And as a realistic teacher, you and I, we don't go away and do our own research. We don't read loads. We read bits of CPD and stuff. But as just a teacher in a school,
experienced people,
done it for a long time, how would you approach behaviour in September? How can we hit the ground running and start?
Do it right.
That's the first tip. There we go.
No, I saw you smirk because I know you were thinking what I was thinking. Yeah. Which is, don't smile till Christmas.
Yeah, that classic thing.
I think you just. First of all, I'd ignore that advice, but we can draw, I guess, from it what people mean, which is get your behaviour management right at the start of the year. That's what they mean, isn't it? When they say that sort of stuff, they're saying don't go too easy on them and let them walk all over you, because then they'll just do that all year because they'll realise that's who you are. When you at the start of the year, when those children are first meeting you and they're first getting to know you, they will be making this perception of you in their head and judging basically what they can get away with and what they can't get away with, because they're kids. They obviously just want to have fun all the time. So if you don't establish really, really, really good routines in the classroom and rules that for their behaviour specifically in mind, then yeah, I feel like they just run rings around you. And I was there. I spent the first couple of years of my career, you remember, where I was just way, way, way too friendly, and I didn't want to upset anyone, and I wanted the kids to like me. I so badly, I needed them to like me because I want them to go home and be like, Mr. Stevens, he's so cool, he's my favourite teacher, and that was the most important thing ever. But actually, what it meant was the behaviour in my class wasn't very good, and therefore the learning outcomes weren't very good, and it all just kind of trickled down from there. So, behaviour. Get it right.
I think you're right. It's the big words I always think about. The routine comes to mind straight away, and structure. They're the two things where I think you're in charge of the classroom. You see yourself as the manager of the classroom as well as a teacher. You're going to do all of the learning stuff. Think of that as a side. Yeah. That's going to come because you've trained or you've been doing the job for 10 years. You know the curriculum, you've done your planning. We'll talk about that later. When it comes to behavior, structure is so unbelievably important for children. It's insane. And like we said, always back up what you're saying. Don't give false promises or false, hope to the children they can get away with doing something. Yeah. That's what they mean when they say don't smile until September. What they mean is, don't
smile until September, day one. I can smile now, kids.
That's my mantra. Spend the whole summer holidays miserable. Don't smile until the kids are in. But that's what they mean. They mean when you think of smiling, they're saying don't budge. Yeah. If you're smiling, you're laid back, you're open, you're budging on what you've set. Yeah. You can smile and be really strict with where your line is for your children. And I think routines...
I'd recommend that.
Yeah, completely. Like, if build relationships with your kids as quickly as possible. They need to know that you like them. Yeah. And that's insane, I think, because some people will hear that and go, what are you talking about? You're not their friend. And I see people getting annoyed saying like, you're their teacher, not their friend. I completely agree with you. But I don't have to be friendly to be nice. I don't have to be someone's best pal going to their birthday party at Jungle Gyms to to be nice
friendly.
and friendly.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure when the kids walk into my classroom, they can smile at me and I'll smile back. Can you imagine some, inexperienced teacher coming into the classroom? First day, this kid's buzzing, comes in, oh my God, we've got Miss Jones. It's her first, she's really young. She's cool. Oh my gosh, I'm really excited. I seen her training last year. Apparently she's really nice because you were yourself in your training year. They walk in, give you a big smile, and you're there deadpan staring at them because someone said to you, don't smile until Christmas. That kid's going to be put off straight away.
Yeah.
Smile, be friendly, be lovely, but have really strict routines. What are we talking about when we say have routines and structure? What do you take from that as a teacher when we're saying to them, have this? I can imagine as a new teacher, you'd be like, well, what do you mean?
Okay, well, routines, I suppose, a little bit different. But routines, I mean, literally just them knowing, even down to like a visual timetable. I know that's more like the structure of the day, but just them knowing precisely how you like things done, even if it's like how to leave the classroom.
Yeah, sure.
So little routines like that, don't leave them up in the air. And you don't have to have them already on day one. Like, you don't have to be panicking about it. But I think you should have in mind the idea that anything where you feel like it's not very well routined as the year goes on as well, you can be like, just squash it quick, get it in there quick. You notice on day 2 that when we say, right, let's line up to go home, that the kids are a nightmare. And maybe they're just all over the place. They start messing around. You just stop immediately. Oh, everyone sit back down. That is not good enough. We need to come up with a routine right now. Let's work on it together. And have those little things in place that you build up over time.
I like the idea of building up on it. That's really cool. I think that's good, especially for more inexperienced teachers. Just you don't need to solve it from day one.
No.
Pick something and be consistent. Like you said with the lining up.
Yeah.
If you on day one, let's say they're lining up awfully, and you go, right, I'm going to pick up on this right now. It's day one. Let's have really solid routines, guys. When we line up, we do not talk, and we line one behind the other, and I dismiss you a table at a time to line up. Tomorrow, do that.
Yeah.
Wednesday, do that. Thursday, do that. Don't do it for 2 days, then stop. That's not a routine then. That's not a habit for the children.
I had one, a few classes actually over the years. They're all different. But one class was so messy. Oh my God. Like every day at the end of the day, all of their stuff would just be on the floor.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't comprehend how they got everything on the floor. But they really, they weren't conscious of it.
Sure.
And they were honestly such a nice class. So I didn't want to get angry at them and get really cross because they were so lovely. They just really were unaware of the mess they were making. So we just got into a routine. I picked up on it quite quickly, where it was okay, at the end of every single day, the last bit of our routine was we do a table check and a floor check, and basically it was just stupid little things like the first table ready, the neatest table or the neatest floor. They just got to line up first for lunch.
Which was great for them.
They got to go first. And for those little things, for me, I'm like, who cares? You're all going to go to lunch anyway. Yeah. But they love that. They want to be at the front of the line. And we just got into that routine. And by the end of the year, they were completely subliminally just always checking the tables and checking the floors. And it was nice.
And that came from you being consistent as well.
Consistent, yeah. And if I wasn't consistent, it would have slipped. If I stopped doing that after a week, that's not enough time to embed into their minds this almost like a response, isn't it? They know that that they trigger at the end of the lesson. It's like, oh yeah, Mr. Stevens always checks the floor and table, so let's just do it rather than waiting for him.
And those routines don't have to just be on them external stuff like that. That's away from learning almost, isn't it? Behaviors lining up. You can put those routines and embed those expectations into your lessons as well. Some of the best feedback I got that I was really proud of from a lesson observation was I was in, I think it was a science lesson in the afternoon, but it was, I think, after Easter. So we had a really big chunk of the year where a lot of those expectations and routines had really been embedded. And I always look forward to observations to kind of show people what the kids can do because they're so used to it.
It's nice.
And a big part of the lesson was we do maybe some starter stuff. We'd start off with maybe they're doing some quiet reading or some handwriting or some times tables, or maybe they'd do a question from last lesson, a bit of a recap, whatever it was. And then the next slide on the screen was their date and their learning objective.
Right.
And I remember so vividly because I got to the point of my class where I could click next. That would come onto the screen and I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And the class went silent and all started doing their date and learning objective because that didn't happen in September. That didn't even really happen in October or November. That took a long time of saying, putting it on and saying, right, when this comes up, we do our date and our what silently. If you finish, you do your extra work.
Yeah.
And then the next time it might be, okay, date and what?
Yeah.
And then over time, eventually it's just next one. And if someone's talking, I go, oh, what do we do when this slide's on?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, we do the date and what? Yeah, correct. And that constant embedding meant that by Easter, click it on, 32 children silently doing the date, doing the what, doing the starter questions meant I could go over to a group of children and recap some stuff or catch up with kids who are absent.
those things are so powerful, I think. And I know they're hard. Like, you made it sound really easy. They are hard to do because it's easy to forget because you're also doing a million other things in a day. So those little things are easy to forget.
And that's why building up's really good, I think.
Yeah.
Because, cool, we've established the class now for a couple of weeks. This is how we line up and move around the class.
Yeah.
I know for a fact there's 2 other things that are bugging me, but you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus on this for now. And I know that my work's never done as a teacher. And if by September all my routines aren't fully established in exactly how I want, especially as an inexperienced teacher, don't beat yourself up. You've got time to still do it.
Yeah, and write them down. If you notice something you think, I'd like to change this, just write it down because you will forget otherwise if you're like me anyway. But like another one might be, so you've got them all lining up now. We're happy with that. You've got them writing their date and Walt, and then actually you get to the part in the lesson where you're maybe, I don't know, you're working with someone at a different table and the kids get up from other parts of the class and they walk over to you and they go, they tap you. Oh, Mr. Price, can you? And you're thinking, oh, that's an annoying behaviour. And they're trying to be nice. I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to get cross. But I'm going to think of a way now to establish a new routine that stops children getting up out of their seat randomly in the lesson rather than just putting their hand up and waiting.
What might be your routine for that, for someone listening right now? If you used to stop them getting out of their seat, what might you teach them to do instead, or get them to do?
So first of all, I'd address the whole class. I wouldn't just address that like one kid that did it. I'd address the whole class. I'd make some time for it. I'd actually dedicate some time in the lesson to really just go over like almost like the meta level of like, this is what I like as a teacher and this is why I like it. It's going to help you learn. From now on, you cannot get out of your seats.
Don't be afraid to explain it.
Yeah, I always explain it to them.
I remember being a kid in school thinking, why?
Yeah, the why kid.
And why though? Why do I have to do that?
Yeah.
Why do I have to? I don't understand. And I think it's really powerful to explain why. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those fine lines, isn't it, between a kid being rude. Why? Because you've actually told them to do something really obvious.
But if you proactively explain something.
Don't chuck the toilet roll into the toilet. Why? Then I'd be annoyed.
Yeah. At this point, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Because also, I think you know why.
But if exactly. But if it's something fairly innocent in their minds of, I want help from the teacher, so I went to the teacher to get help. And you say, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
And
imagine that, yeah.
And then you go, don't tell me, don't answer me back. That situation is wrong because it's like they are genuinely just unsure of.
You're teaching them not to ask you for help.
Yeah, why they couldn't get help. So yeah, just establish a new routine, explain what's right, be silly with it because kids remember funny things. So play a little game, like get one of the kids role playing where they get up and you just ignore them. And everyone's laughing, and then someone else puts a hand up, and you go straight to them, and this kid's following you around. Like, make a silly little game out of it, where they'll remember, oh, us getting up, that's not how we get the attention of the teacher.
That'll backfire when everyone gets up because I think it's funny.
yeah. And it might do for a little bit, but
no, you're right. You're right. You've got to create a hook for them.
Yeah.
Create a hook for them to remember something.
If you just say, don't do this anymore, and then carry on doing what you're doing, I promise you they'll forget. You've got to really establish and embed routines.
So in September's there's time to start that, and don't be afraid to start it immediately. And again, maybe we can finish on behaviour for this. One of the best bits of advice I remember receiving early in my career, and it's been like throughout, a number of people have said this, so it's really important, is do not be afraid to cut down lesson time to teach routines and expectations and behavior. Look at behavior the same way you look at maths, the same way you look at English, the same way you look at the curriculum, because if children don't have their learning behaviors established, it's okay to spend 20 minutes teaching learning behaviors
multiple times
and modeling it. And in the same way I teach children how to do exchanging when I did adding, I'm going to teach children how to actually ask their partner for help or the order before they just stand up and think they can walk to the front of the class. So I'm going to teach them how to do it. I'm going to teach them how to be good partners. I'm going to teach them why it's important to focus on a certain thing at a time. I'm going to teach them if they're really struggling with something, what they can do to help themselves, rather than me just getting annoyed at them for looking out the window. Yeah, that's just a perpetuating.
It's an investment.
It's not.
You're
not
investing time at the start of the year, so that the rest of the year is really smooth, rather than on that small
just
level thinking, I can't because you're putting out fires all year and actually ironically wasting more time in the long run.
Yeah, just
do you have any because I feel like routine is a really good point, so I'm happy to keep talking about it. But do you have any like tips on like toilets, because that's a big one, like kids wanting to go to the toilet. Obviously people need to go to the toilet, so I'm not one of those teachers that's like, nope, you simply can't ever go to the toilet in the middle of my lesson. Do you have any advice on how to manage kids needing to go to the toilet?
I think that from my experience of working in multiple schools and talking to lots of teachers, there is not one answer that everyone goes by. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you should always let your kids go all the time. Yeah. Because my gut instinct is, if someone needs to go to the toilet, they can go to the toilet. If I need to go to the toilet on my workday, lots of people say, well, I can't go to the toilet. It's like, yeah, you're an adult teacher. Like that's such a bad comparison. Never compare yourself to the kid. I think that's not useful. I like to let the children go to the toilet when they need to. Yeah. I think you got to build up trust. Yeah. You've got to almost have trust in someone. And then if they erode that, I think then you come up with some consequences. But in terms of actually letting them go to the toilet, I think you need to be consistent with your year group colleagues. What you don't want, especially in a school where maybe you go to a different teacher for a maths group and you go to another teacher for an English group and you come back to your class teacher, all three having a different toilet policy is obviously going to be confusing and annoying for the children.
100%. That's a really good
So
point.
I think you need to be really consistent with your year group. I would talk to SLT and just establish what the actual rules are in the school.
Yeah.
Because again, if year 6 have a different rule to year 4, it might be for a reason. You know, especially young girls going through changes. That as they get older in primary school, they need to be able to go to the toilet straight away. There are some children who have medical needs where they have a toilet pass, they need to go straight away. There are some children who just need to go to the toilet, and you should let them go. And there are also some children who don't need to go to the toilet, they just want to get out of their lesson and they want to mess around in the toilet, or they want to avoid doing the work because they don't understand something.
Or they genuinely just need a break because they're anxious or something.
Exactly.
That's the horrible bit, isn't it? I remember someone telling me that years ago. They were like, have you ever considered that this child is not leaving your classroom to be naughty? They just need a break, and this is the only way they can. This is the only way they can get out for 30 seconds.
And you haven't established a way in your room where a child in that situation can deal with it in a different way.
They can feel comfortable talking about it or asking about it.
So the toilet question to me is like a 7-pronged question.
Yeah, it is.
I think like if a child needs to go to the loo, just let them go quickly. But as teacher, you do just pick up on stuff.
I think we actually, it was great. You went deeper actually than I was thinking. I had a way more surface level thing in my head of literally like the routine of how do you do it in terms of, because I find, I don't know about you, but I found over the years that there is nothing more frustrating.
Should you do role play?
Ready? Okay, ready? Right. I'm delivering some like really important part of the lesson that I think is going to maybe spark some questions from the children. Okay. Wow. And Henry, you got a question about him? Yeah.
Yeah. Can I go to the toilet?
Oh no. Can you just hang on? Let me finish this paragraph. Let me just finish what I'm saying, and then we'll come back to you. Anyone else got a question?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can I go to the toilet when they're finished?
Oh, no. Okay. Right. Let's just. Then I always find myself in that situation where I'm saying to the children, right, we need to establish some sort of routine where that you're not just putting your hand up and like doing this in the middle of me delivering like some important piece of information for your lesson.
Well, okay, I'll come on to that straight away. Toilet passes. If there are children who medically need a toilet pass, they have a printed off coloured card that they keep and they just hold up. No discussion. I just nod and they can go off to the toilet. Doesn't remotely interrupt the class whatsoever.
Agree.
Something I don't do anymore that I used to do, but I thought was really good advice. Maybe I'll start doing it again. Is just like a coded system. Yeah. So like if hands up, obviously if you do hands up, that can be to answer a question. But if they need to go to the toilet, maybe they'll put 2 fingers up crossed or something.
Yeah.
and then that's the symbol for saying, well, I'm not going to get them to answer the question because I know they need the toilet.
Yeah.
You might not straight away say them yes. You might say 1 second and then let someone answer. And then when there's a natural lull, just look at them and nod.
Exactly.
Then you can control it as the teacher. So you've got, again, look, it comes back to teaching your kids routines. Don't be annoyed at stuff when 8-year-olds don't do something that in your head you want them to do. Yeah. If you've not put any effort into making them do it. If you're like, oh, for God's sake, why did the kids keep asking me to go to the toilet every time I ask a question? Okay, well, they're 8. Yeah. And if they're doing that, are you going to just moan at them and yourself, or are you going to think of a system that you can embed to stop it happening? Yeah,
because they literally just need the toilet and they're telling you. That's it. They're already being polite because they're putting their hand up and telling you. They're not just walking off, right?
Exactly.
So if that annoys you got to think of a system. I agree. And I think that even just like the cross fingers is a really good symbol of like, I'm putting my hand up because I'm going to ask you to go to the toilet. And you know this visually now, so you deal with it.
So then the teacher has control. Yeah. I think it's about getting control, as much control as you can as the teacher in any way possible. That's what this all comes down to for behaviour, in my opinion.
Moving on to a slightly different point, I've got a new thing that I'm trying this year, actually. Well, I say new. It's something where I've recognised that in my whole career, I've never really like embedded this properly.
Is it how to teach properly?
Yes.
Are you finally becoming a teacher?
I'm finally training to be a teacher. I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. But it's something where I was like, no, because like you said, September's so important. It's the time to do it. I thought about it in term 6 last year, and I was like, it's too late. It is honestly too late. These kids have had me for 5
Especially
terms.
Especially year 6, they go to a new school.
I was like, it's just not fair as well for me to just change. But I think this is important now. You've had me for 5 terms. I've not mentioned it once. Yeah. But basically, it was starting to annoy me last year that
you couldn't teach it. I'm sorry.
No, kids putting their hands up. In general, when I'm midway through something, like saying something, and I think you've said this before. I think you're more like further down the line than me. So I said on transition day to this class that I'm getting in September, I made a real big point of it, and I was like, I'm gonna, and like we've said in this episode, that is going to be my thing that I start with, and I'll establish other things afterwards, but I'm going to start with this, which is I'm going to make it really clear to the kids that I think it's rude that if I'm talking to them all. And it's not just general whatever, but I'm mid delivering a lesson, and they put their hands up to ask a question. I've made it clear to them that if you're doing that, all you're thinking about is the question you want to ask. And you've actually stopped listening to me. You're not even listening to what I'm saying anymore because you're just thinking, I need to ask this question. I'm going to think about my question so I don't forget my question.
You've just described this podcast. I'm just thinking about my question.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, but you're not sat with your hand up, distracting me.
No,
about
you're
it.
absolutely right.
And I've just said to the kids, I'm going to, right, guys, it's going to be really important in September that you just wait till there's a natural pause in what I'm saying. So when you feel like I've finished my point, then you can come in, which is what we're doing in this podcast all the time. We wait until the other person to finish that point.
Well, you are. Yeah. I'm just coming in when I'm on.
Yeah,
that's so true.
You've kind of done. I feel like maybe I even got this from you. I don't know.
No. This was a huge thing for me. A huge thing because it's exactly that. It's actually more. It's not. I'm not personally offended that they want to ask me something halfway through. It's that I'm in the middle of probably the most important point of the lesson of me as a teacher telling the class the key information that they need to be able to get something out of this lesson.
Yeah.
And someone's got their hand up, and they're asking something from 2 slides ago, or they're just saying, "Oh,
did you know this?
I love rocks, and I read this about rocks that's completely different."
Yeah.
And you know for a fact, the whole time they got their hand up, all they're thinking is, "I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to ask this question." So I established that with my class. It didn't really help because they're so young. Like I'm with year 4s, they're quite young, but it minimized it. Like there are some children who still just wanted to get something out of their system. Fine, but you come up with a way. You say to them, "Look, next time this happens, here's a piece of scrap paper. Write the question down.
Yeah.
Keep your finger on it. And then when I've finished, you can come back to it." And that worked for some kids.
I was about to say, because the immediate flaw I thought on this was, is it the same problem, but kids aren't putting their hands up? Are they just now thinking of their question, thinking, I'm not allowed to put my hand up to the end, so I'm going to still think of my question, though.
And that's why you've got to think of a way to address the problem rather than either mask over it or just keep moaning.
Yeah, the masking.
So like masking is a huge part of teaching where you kind of, it feels like you've achieved something, but really you haven't.
No.
Like that child putting their hand down now is still thinking, okay, I'm going to ask them about igneous rocks.
Wait for the right moment now.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 things happened. Either those kids would carry on doing that, or when I did it, some kids would wait and I'd finish a sentence. I wouldn't be in the mid. I wouldn't finish my point. I'd finish a sentence and they'd be like, oh, and I'd be like, I've not finished yet. Okay. And the hand would go down.
All they're doing is thinking about
and they're just
when you're going to pause.
Questions. So, it's small things like that you're going to find throughout the year that will constantly happen. And even if you pick up on that in October, December, November, you're like, right, guys, I've noticed this thing's been happening. It's not actually too late. I think with yours in term 6, maybe at that point, it's
term 6 to year 6.
Okay, you're past that, whatever. But I don't think it's too late for someone to be like, I've noticed something. I think it's affecting it in this way. You can think about this in your head, but then how can I tell the kids about this? Okay, kids, it's affecting your learning if you're not listening to me deliver something, but I really value what you want to say. I hate the idea of suppressing questions, especially in the afternoon when you're doing something really interesting like history and it's really sparked their interest and there's 7 hands go up. And I found myself before there going, guys, you need to not ask questions because I'm in the middle of talking. That's actually really bad. Like, that's really bad as a teacher.
They're so engaged and they're showing you and you're squashing it.
Exactly. And you see their faces go, oh. And I hate that. So, just finding ways to get around it, have Post-it notes on the table. Do you know what I mean? They can grab a Post-it note then, put it in front of them, write it down, and then carry on listening to you.
And at the end, if there was loads as a teacher, you can be like, right, everyone bring your Post-it notes to the front. I'll just read off loads of them. Just go through them. There's ways you can manage it.
And don't be afraid to say you don't know.
Yeah. Because there is a situation in reality where you do actually have a lesson to get through.
Exactly.
There is almost a minimum point you need to get through in this lesson, really. And if they keep asking questions, you actually won't get through it all. And therefore the lesson is even worse now. So that you've got to find a balance somewhere.
And children, you do have to teach them that. You can't ask 10 questions though. Like there are some questions where yourself after you need to go out and find something. Someone did once, I remember a colleague of mine, there was a child who constantly asked questions. Constantly. And no matter what you did, they were just like, yeah, but what about that? So they gave this person 3 questions a day. Like as tokens kind of thing. Okay. Like they were like, listen, your questions are great, but you really need to ask the right questions because half the questions were nonsense. So then he really thought about his questions then. And then when he had a question, he thought, okay, this is important enough for me to use a token. Right. I'm going to use one of my question tokens. And for that child, that really worked. There's not going to be a one size fits all. Some children, I tell you now, you can say to them, we're not going to ask questions in class, okay? And they'll be like, oh, that's fine. I'll ask you at break time. Yeah. Oh, that's fine. I'll just find out myself. They won't be personally offended. There'll be some children where asking a question is the most important thing in the world to them, and they have to get out of their chest. So you need to find a way as the teacher.
And there's always someone. There's always going to be someone who's asking the most questions. By definition, someone has to be in your class asking the most questions. And I mean, if you're a teacher, think about it right now. Who is that person that comes to your mind? Whether this year just gone or in the past, like who's that person who just everything you say, they have their hand up to answer it, and it's both great and a little bit annoying. It just is. So you've got to manage it with things like that. It's a really good idea. And
it's okay to say between colleagues and between staff, this is really annoying me. Yeah. Because then you can actually talk to your staff and be like, okay, well, how can we fix it then? Because just remember, they are children. Exactly. They do need to learn stuff. They need to learn not to do stuff sometimes, and that's okay. We don't need to pander to everything. but you have to do an intervention or to put something in place. You can't expect routines to fall into place or the children to behave how you magically imagined this beautiful classroom.
I had a child once, just to finish off on this point. I had a child once, very similar, put her hand up a lot, really engaged, was such a lovely kid, and she was so super into every single lesson, right? Always wanted to ask a question, and she definitely got like a higher proportion of like how many things were asked, because she always had a hand up. But she'd always get annoyed then if it did get to a point where there's 8 hands up and I asked 3 people and she wasn't one of them. She'd be like, oh. She'd actually like have a huff and get a bit annoyed about it. And one time I just talked to her and I just explained, like you said, we always do. I think we're both hot on this. I just explained to her, I said, look, there are 32 children in this classroom. You are all equal. I really value your questions. I said, but how do you think it would feel to the other children if you answered 50% of the questions and the other 31 children answered the other 50%? That's so not fair, is it? And she was like, yeah, I suppose so. And honestly, from that point onwards, completely fine with it. I just needed a bit of explanation. It's like, you're not the only person in the room. And I'm here for all of you, and not just you.
That's a really good thing to learn. Out of that lesson, honestly, she might only remember that.
Yeah.
She might have forgotten, this history fact that you talked about. But she remembered that. Yeah. And then do you know what? In the future, it disrupted other children less. She just got on with it. She wasn't getting annoyed anymore. She got more out of the future lessons. Yeah. There's different ways to get stuff out of kids. And I think as teachers, you've got to constantly be on the lookout for that kind of thing. And
whilst also not hurting their feelings and not suppressing them, like you said. Like
and it doesn't mean we're raising a generation of woke snowflakes. Like, no, we're just taking emotion seriously, right? And as professionals who are adults with children, we're going to look out for them. Like, it winds me up so much when people are like, well, just tell them no. It's like, okay, for some kids, I will.
That would have been a board rubber chucked at your head.
Yeah, back in your day, you had PTSD for half the class.
I'll tell you what, you're still talking about that board rubber, so it probably wasn't a good thing.
Exactly.
To be honest with you.
Exactly. And you don't remember anything you were taught, clearly. So, okay, cool. So, behaviours, routines, that's a huge chunk, I think. That's
nice. I hope that was helpful.
I think that was really helpful for anyone listening. So we're going to go through some other ones now, maybe a bit more quickly. Yeah. Classroom environment. Yeah. Hot topic. Yeah, I mean, we're going to do what that girl did. I'm like, we have to talk about this one.
We have to.
Like, yes, we do. Hayden, there's lots of things we want to talk about today, and this is one of them. Yeah. Okay, so we just think how annoying it would be if you were classroom environment and 2 people doing a podcast didn't talk about you.
Okay, I get it.
So what do you think about classroom environment?
I think it's rubbish. No, I think classroom environment is one of those things where me and you, we've got the same mindset.
We're not the guys to talk about it.
We're not the guys, but I also definitely know that if I don't sort it out in September, I just the whole year goes by. And
what do you even mean by classroom environment? Because you've got just displays, working walls. Like what are we talking about? Strip it back. We know for a fact there are lots of different types of teachers. Some teachers bloody love going above and beyond, and those teachers make amazing spaces. And I think anyone pretending that God, that's rubbish. No. Celebrate it. Yeah. Celebrate the above and beyond people when they do something above and beyond.
Yeah, okay, it's great.
Because it's amazing, and those kids have a great experience.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it if the above and beyond bit was them and their ability to teach English. Look at them going home reading research on how to do English better. So you'd be like, oh, well done, that's amazing.
Exactly.
I haven't done that, but like that's brilliant.
Exactly. So there's like 2 kind of prongs here. It's like almost, what should be expected from teachers and what do they actually do? So in terms of hitting the ground running in September, what would you say is, the bare minimum that, every classroom needs to have? Because I don't think we want soulless cesspits, do we?
Bare minimum. If you've got display boards in there, there needs to be something on them. Like, come on, realistically. They can't just be bare display boards.
Well, what do you mean backed and stuff?
No, I mean like not even backed. You can't just have them and think, I'll do that later in the term. At least back them and put a nice board around them. Yeah. Even if there's nothing on it just yet, and because in term 1 you're going to do a topic and it's going to go up there, whatever. At least just have the classroom looking inviting and a little bit colourful. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just like bare, what are they, like cork boards often, aren't they?
Yeah. Behind, Some people have gone for Hessian. It's book calming. There's a lot of research about calming stuff. Like, I would say colours aren't that important, personally. Like, they can be nice and inviting. I don't think children necessarily...
Well, we use Hessians. I said colours as if that's the thing I do, but I use Hessian.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people do use that calming environment, which they think is important. But, going above and like making a paper mache tree in your corner... You don't need to do that. Like, it's nice, but you don't need to do that to be an effective teacher. Yeah, you made a tree. Yeah. But I don't think classroom environment, in terms of starting off strong in September, again, I think there's a few things you need to do. Look at your policy. What do you think about this? I wanted to talk about this with classroom environment. There's a few schools at the minute who are taking very literally the advice after the school wellbeing report was released about what teachers should and shouldn't do. And there's a whole list of things teachers shouldn't have to do anymore. Yeah. And it was like transferring data from one thing to another. a whole list. I can't remember. One of them was teachers shouldn't have to do displays.
Yeah.
And, that was interpreted by many as like, as you walk into the school, there's a display in the hallway. But some schools have gone all out and some head teachers have actually said, no, take all displays down in classrooms as well, because teachers don't have to do displays anymore. Wow. What do you think about that?
There's a weird middle ground that is skipped over, which is what I actually think. So from day one of teaching, I've always thought, isn't that mental that we have to do displays despite already doing 20 hours overtime unpaid a week, and this is on top?
Yeah.
I've always thought it's completely mental. As someone who also doesn't really like doing that sort of stuff, I obviously justify it because I don't like it. But going all the way to the level of therefore get rid of them all
in your classroom,
your classroom, I don't think would be my outcome. I think I'd probably find a middle ground of like, okay, let's employ a TA or something to be like the display person.
Well, it's a good job we've got lots of money in schools for that.
Yeah, I know that's where it's obviously struggled. But I mean, we've worked in a school that's had that, where they've had like a resources team, and you just kind of put in what you want, and eventually they'll get around to making it for you.
I like the idea of a working wall. I don't necessarily use it in my teaching too much, even though it might be good. I'm not saying it's good or bad, whatever, but it's obviously good to have a vocab wall children can look at. It's got to be practical. That's all I really care about. All I really care about
But the time to do it though
in schools, it's now, right?
But that's another thing, right? In terms of like if a school's saying, "Oh no, teachers shouldn't be doing this," it was like, okay, well, cancel 2 of your staff meetings and give them those 2 hours. If you want, I just don't know. I feel like there's a way to not go to the extreme of we have bare walls in our school because we've been told teachers can't do this. So just give them time to do it. I'm sure they won't mind doing it. It's just when it's on top. That's when I'm like, that's an unfair expectation. I worked in a school where it was just honestly changing displays like every term took so much time, so many evenings I spent like way after school hours had finished just doing displays because we had to.
Would you tell people listening to say no to that now?
Oh God, yeah. I wish I could go back and be like, no. I wish not even just no. I wish I could go back and say, when would you like me to?
Yeah.
And then when they inevitably say, oh, in your free unpaid time at the weekend or the half term or at 6 p.m, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do it then. Is there any other time in like the paid hours I could do it?
Yeah, 100%.
And when they say no, we go, okay, what's the solution then?
Yeah.
Who's going to do it for me then?
I think it's a really good attitude to have, which is not to say, I want to do this.
Yeah.
That is like, you're putting up the wall almost straight away, aren't you? And you say, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm awful at that. I will jump to straight away. Nope, not doing it. Nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
But actually, what you should say is, okay, when? Like that.
When
that
and
is
how.
Yeah. And if that can't be answered, then you've almost put the answer on them rather than on you being negative and I'm not going above and beyond. Yeah, no, I'm not.
But there's a risk though that they have thought about it and they'll give you a really good answer. At which point, if it's reasonable, you've just got to accept it.
And that's fine.
If
that's
they're like,
oh
yeah, next staff meeting we're giving you all time to do it. You'd be like, oh, okay.
And that's fine then.
But the wall has to go down.
Yeah. And even though I don't like doing displays, if they say, here, you've given half a day to do it, like, well, obviously I'll do it.
You are paying me for
my job.
Time, so
you don't have to like every part of your job ever.
Yeah.
So classroom environment, I think it needs to be practical. It obviously needs to hit what your SLT are asking you, but just look at what your SLT are asking for you. Is it fair? Is it reasonable? If it's not, ask questions. But practicality, have that at the front of your mind. Don't do something because it looks cool. But then if you actually go and sit in all of the spaces, and this was an amazing thing I saw on Blue Sky. I can't remember who posted it, but they said in September at the start, go and sit in every single seat in your classroom seating plan and environment. Go and sit in every single seat and see if everything's practical and useful. That's cool. So, if you sit in 32 seats and 10 of them can't see the English vocab board, that's now a pointless board. Yeah. Because what do you want an English vocab board for? It's for when they're working, the children can look up and see some vocab.
If 10 can't see it, then
if 10 can't see it, they're not going to put it in their work. So I was like, oh my God, that's such an easy way.
Sometimes it's hard though, isn't it? You get awkward classrooms.
Yeah, completely.
Like in my classroom, I've got like almost like a dead spot where it's just so angled to see the board, but there's nowhere else but the tables because it's just not big enough.
Yeah.
But anyone on that table just really struggles to see the board because it's just on such an angle at the front, and I'm like, I can't. And I push them back as far as I can.
Another thing then, as teachers, it's that knowledge of doing that. At least well, those 10 kids can't see it. So I'm going to have something in place for them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to allow them to get out of their seat and go and look when we're doing English writing. So if then 10 kids do that, I'm not going, what, you're at your seat? I did tell you that just now.
I've got about four that are just slightly too far and it's just hard to see. And whenever we do anything that remotely relies on the interactive board where I actually have to be looking at or watching a video or reading something, I'm always like, just come and sit over here. Just literally come and sit on the carpet over here or just move your chair around for a bit. Yeah. You can go back to your table to work. But you've got to think of something.
So quickly on classroom environment, last thing, seating plans, rows, groups, boy, girl, boys, boy, girl, higher ability, lower ability. Where do you stand, all that kind of stuff?
It doesn't matter. I honestly, over the years, I've done every single one and none of them made any difference ever. I just think it's personal preference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to say any more on that.
I would actively avoid boy, girl. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate that like idea of, well, I'm going to do boy girl because then they'll talk less.
Oh, right.
No, don't perpetuate that in your classroom.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
All you need to do as a teacher is obviously don't put friends next to each other. Clearly. And if they happen to be, there's a whole group of 8 that are girls who are all friends and talk to each other, try and avoid that. But you know what you can also do? You could also not and teach them how to behave in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to do stuff sometimes with your friends. Like it is absolutely impossible to have a seating plan where everything's perfect. So don't beat yourself up if you do a seating plan and you think, oh God, why have I put these two together? They always talk.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this next time they won't be, but for this time they've got to learn that they can't talk to each other.
My seating plan system is really simple. I do the same thing every single time. I tell them at the beginning of the year, we'll change seating plan at the start of each term. No, there's nothing you can do about that. And we won't do it mid-term. It's just tough. I always say to them, if you get sat next to a friend, it's by accident. I'll randomise your seating plans. That's what I tell the kids. Obviously, I don't actually randomise it.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I do consider when I'm doing my seating plan, it's not boys and girls and things like that. It is literally just what children do I want closest to me that I know will need the most support.
Yeah, that's
Therefore,
the most important.
I'm not having to go right round and awkwardly to the back of the classroom. I can just keep them nearer to me, nearer to the board.
Absolutely.
And equally, I pair them with children that I've learned are really bad at focusing.
Sure.
I'll put them in places where I can just be like helping them focus all the time.
Sure.
Everyone else randomized, changes each term. If you moan about it, tough, get over it. And I find that they just generally deal with it. They're like, okay, well, we're going to change their term anyway. Yeah. So, and I'll say, learn to get on with the people you're around.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how life works. You're going to be filled with people that you don't necessarily like. They're
and it's when you get a parent
friends.
come in and go, could we move? Could you move
really
little
like.
Sally, please? Because I don't really like. I'm at the point now where I'm like, oh, not until next term. And I'm more confident now in my start of my career. But like, oh yes, of course, straight away. If there's a safeguarding issue or a very big falling out, I'd be like, oh okay, I'll talk to them and we'll get to the bottom of it, and then maybe I will obviously do that. Yeah. But if it's simply just, oh, you don't quite get on with that person, I'm like, well, sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Someone else might feel the same way, who I then move close to them, and then I get a parent coming to me saying, "Oh, can they move?" I'm not doing it.
It's always awkward, isn't it, when you've got one child in your class who is a little bit naughty or a bit slightly annoying to the other children. The children find that behaviour annoying. Yeah. And then you're constantly getting kids saying, "I don't want to sit next to that person." Yeah. It's like, well, come on, this is getting unfair now.
Part of them learning how to behave better is going to be you learning how to deal with these behaviours also.
Yeah, when it's not you. Yeah. You missed one big thing with classroom environment, because I know you want to move on, and I feel like this is really important to me, and it's hilarious you didn't bring it up. Being really, really tidy. I think I actually value that super high.
I don't know why I didn't bring that up.
I think being really organised, really, really tidy classroom. I think that's really important. And I've struggled with it this year, struggled to keep on top of it, and I've felt stressed all the time. And I think children sometimes get a bit stressed when there's just stuff everywhere. Yeah. But I think that's another big one. Keep on top of the tidiness.
Tidy desk, tidy mind.
Tidy desk, tidy mind.
That's the thing.
Yeah. It is.
So that's why my mind is messy as hell. Baby.
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
Classroom's not bad though.
I'm a type B person. Yeah, but it's not great. And I think everything has a place. Again, there's got to be a bottom line for that. Everything's got to have a place. The kids know where to go for a pencil. Yeah. They know where to go for their maths books. You could say, can you hand out the English books? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And they'd go straight to the English books. Yeah. But yeah, tidiness is important, and it's something I learned as I got older. It's another way of having routines and structure for your children. They should be able to rely on a tidy space, I think. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. Moving on, you know how I just mentioned about children learning to socialise with people that are not necessarily their best friends.
Yep.
So they're sat next to them. Same for adults, really, isn't it? There's one of our points that's a bit lower down our list.
Yeah, no.
I thought it linked nicely about you're going to work with people that aren't necessarily your best friends.
Yeah. That's tricky.
Yeah.
No, it can be tricky. I think, again, talking to people, especially new teachers who are asking for advice and stuff from the podcast, I think this is something which equally applies to literally everyone, though. I really like this point, because you are constantly moved about in a primary school. It's quite unique, really. If you worked in a different kind of job, like my cousin works for this company, does like accounting or something, right? And he's had the same team for honest like 5 years. Yeah. Because you're an accountant. Yeah. You can't suddenly go into sales. You're an accountant. With the accounting team, you're doing accounting. Yeah. With teaching, it's like, cool, I'm a year 4 teacher. You can also be a year 1 teacher. You can also be a year 6 teacher, and you get moved constantly. And if you're not getting moved, someone in your team's probably getting moved around. Yeah. So whether you're going to a new year group or someone's joining you, every year, I'd argue, pretty much, you're guaranteed a new team in some respect, whether it's a teaching assistant or a fellow teacher or whatever it is. And I think it's really, really important to draw the line and understand that you do not have to be friends with everyone you work with. You can be friendly. Yeah, you can be cordial, and you absolutely should be always professional. And if that's not 2 ways, then that's a different conversation. But you can be in control of being professional. You don't have to like the person you're working with.
No.
And I'm not saying I do or don't.
No.
I'm quite fortunate, I think, right now with my team. I really like all of them.
Yeah.
You know, am I best friends with them? Obviously not.
No.
Because I'm best friends with my best friends.
Yeah.
But with my colleagues, do I like them to get on with them? Yes. Am I always professional with them? I try to be as much as possible. Have you ever worked with someone who you thought, oh, I just wish I didn't have to?
Oh, well. Sitting awfully
I
close.
do a podcast with them.
God, you know what? Have I? I've worked with people where I've thought in my head, I would never socialise with you outside of this school.
Sure.
I don't necessarily dislike you, like where I think like you're horrible, but
Sure.
I think we are so different.
Yeah.
You're not the kind of person that I'd actively want to socialise with outside the school. But I don't hate them, you know, it's a strong word, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I would say it's never gone further than that. I don't think I've ever worked with someone where I'm so enraged by them that I think, oh my God, the furthest it's ever gone is I've just disagreed with like the majority of things that they say or think. It's not got to an enraged level, but I'm always a little bit on edge, like, I just know that we're going to think differently about this thing. It's just annoying because we constantly don't agree on like how to do this thing. Yeah. But that's about as far as it's gone. What about you?
I'd say I've worked in a school with people who I'm like, I actively don't like you.
Yeah.
And that's just true. Just always going to happen. There's always going to be people I'm like, I don't like the way you treat the kids.
Yeah.
I think whether it's acceptable or not, whatever. But I just think the way you talk about them in the staff room, it's like you resent this job. It's like I don't understand why some people are teachers. I'll be perfectly honest. Like maybe you feel like you're trapped in the job, whatever. Fine, but
yeah, maybe.
But go and do something else. If what you're saying about the job is true, then what on earth are you doing still here? And I struggle to bond with those types of people or get on with them or think of ways. I just struggle with that because the number one reason why I'm a teacher is because I love teaching the kids. And if I don't feel that from someone, I'm just a bit like, well, okay, don't know what you're doing then.
Yeah.
But I think advice from starting September, if you're starting in a team with someone who you just don't quite get on with, completely bury that.
Yeah.
Completely bury it. Don't let it remotely get in the way, because it's the same for a child in your class. If you're told in transition, Sally, she's a right nightmare coming up.
Got to sit next to her.
Jesus Christ, that's Sally. You know, just be careful. If the teacher, like the year group below, is saying that to you, I also don't like that. Like, it's cool to know these things, but I want to form my own opinions. I want to go in with a clean slate. Same with my colleagues and my teaching staff. I want to go in with a clean slate. I'm going to go in really professional. Say, okay, what are the best outcomes for the kids? We're maybe planning together or something like that. We're going to break it up evenly, make sure it's fair, distribute stuff. And then if something happens that I don't like or I think's wrong or I think's unprofessional, then go from there. But I think you've got to start with a blank, clean slate.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think the happiest, it affects your mind massively. You know, I can tell you right now, the happiest I am at work is when the people around me I'm just sort of chilled with, even if, like you said, wouldn't hang out with them outside of school, but we all get along, we do the job properly together. But yeah, if you're struggling with someone and you're constantly moaning about them, or you're going to the head teacher, they're doing this, it just stresses you out. They're living rent free in your head, as people say.
I bet everyone's had this feeling before, right? Where they don't quite get on with someone, they don't like someone, and then because you're living in that mindset, there's almost nothing that person can do that doesn't annoy you. Yeah. And suddenly, you know, if you were eating a bag of, well, maybe not eating because that would annoy me, but if you were like, if you just drank some of your drink right now, I wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah. But if someone I actively don't like sat there and drank their drink now, I'd probably be like, in the middle of the pot, how rude! I'm talking to him.
You find the reasons,
drinking their drink, where it's completely, it's completely nothing wrong at all with what they're doing. But with that mindset you have, it automatically makes it into a bad thing when it just doesn't have to be.
We're very lucky. I think our school, we've got a we're so lucky, because I feel like every teacher in our school and TA, they just get on. Yeah. And again, even if they're not friends outside of school, we've nailed that surface level, at least, respect for each other, where everyone just gets on and we can all talk about stuff. We can disagree on things as well, and it's just not a problem.
I think that's really powerful, actually. Nice. That's a really good point, actually, to go on to very quickly, is the ability to disagree with someone without falling out with them. Yeah. As staff, that's so important, and you got to hit the ground running with that. Yeah. And I was thinking about, obviously we lead maths in our school. Yeah. Every September we get that time to go over maths, basically, and just touch base at the start.
And we never disagree, do we?
Set expectations, God no. But what I thought would be really good, having got some advice on Blue Sky again, I said, well, what would you do with this hour? It's really flexible. I normally do this, go over CPD we've had recently, go over our focus for the year, give you some time to do some planning and talk to your team. Yeah. What would you do if you had the time? And someone said, put out an anonymous questionnaire and just ask them some questions about maths. You know, what did you find trickiest to teach last year? So it's anonymous, and then you can give some resources out to everyone and say, oh look, here's some help. What went well? What's going badly? And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. And I know some people would be really reluctant to ask those questions, especially what went badly. And it's like, but that's really powerful.
You're inviting criticism.
You're inviting criticism because you lead maths, but you're being naive if you think everything's perfect. So I thought to myself, yeah, I would really trust actually my colleagues, my professionals, if they write something that said is going bad with maths. You know what? It's because it is. They're not out to get anyone. It's anonymous. They're writing it because they're professional. They go, times tables is weak in my area. We need some help. Cool. And then I know
because we
do.
work in that school where we've got that environment. It's nice. But if you're in a toxic school, I reckon I'd find it a lot harder. If you know that in that school there's someone who absolutely hates you and you don't get on with, I wouldn't want to hand out that questionnaire because I know they'll roast me because it's anonymous, and it's harder to make those decisions. So it is. I think there's a lot comes from taking time to make really nice relationships with the people around you, even if they're not your best friend, even if you think I'd never socialise with them. Make the effort at work because actually you're stuck with them for a long time. It's worth it.
And it comes down to controlling your mindset. And I suppose this is the last thing we're going to talk about in terms of in September. You have control over your mindset on other people. Someone else might affect you, might not get on with you. That's down to them. If that happens, deal with it. But from the offset in September, have that mindset of, cool, I'm going to get on with everyone. My whole class is going to be amazing. My colleagues are going to be fantastic. And part of controlling your mindset is you've got to take control from the offset, from September. I sound like a broken record, of that work-life balance. It is so important. September especially is the time where you have to grip onto it as tightly as ever because it's so easy for it to disappear and so easy for people to almost blackmail you and make you feel bad about your 6 weeks you just had off. Doesn't matter.
Gotta work really hard now.
From September, you got to cling on to that work-life balance. What does it look like in September, Hayden? Making sure that you look after yourself and don't get burned out from the start.
Oh, crikey. Okay, right. From the get-go, I'm just going to precursor this with my one bit of advice that I'd really want to push people to do is before September starts, just dedicate a little bit of time to think about this, what we're about to say, right?
Absolutely.
Get ready to hit the ground running properly and don't get caught short. So, proper work-life balance is not, again, feeling guilty you just had 6 weeks off and therefore taking on way more planning than you should be doing. Your planning should be should meet whatever your requirements are of your school, whether that's you do it all in PPA, whether that's in your head, you're like, on Friday nights is my planning night. As long as you can get it done in the time that you've allocated and no more, that's fine. That's fine. You do what you do, but don't take on any more just because. Okay, so planning. Marking. Or any policy at school, if you feel like it's changed since last year and you just think this is ridiculous now and they're just expecting way too much of us, I can't get this done in the time, you need to say something about it. That's affecting your work-life balance. Go on, jump in with some points.
No, you're absolutely right because I think it's such a powerful thing because I sometimes feel like we're preaching to people we can't help. But I really do think we can because I feel like we're either preaching to people who have already gone through this conversion and have spoken to SLT and it's sorted. Or people who are going to speak to SLT and it's going to be sorted because they've got understanding SLT. With those people, what I'd say to them is you've got to be the person to action it though. Because there might be the loveliest SLT in the world and the nicest meaning, but don't know what's going on. They don't know that you're taking marking home every day. That's clearly not acceptable. So be proactive and then you'll find it will change quickly and your life will be better.
Don't be a bystander.
Don't be a bystander. Don't be a martyr.
Be an upstander.
Don't go to the staff room and say, bloody hell, marking again.
But then do nothing about it.
It won't change. You've got to be proactive about it. Or I'm talking to people in a toxic school where it doesn't matter. The school just like completely make them feel awful for not possibly doing anything. I did a post this summer. I ended up feeling quite bad. But I still stand by what I said. So I'm really interested what you think. I was talking about people who in school, teachers, there are some teachers, and we do a podcast, so obviously we're probably under this umbrella, who like to moan, okay? Sure. And who will say, oh, I do 60 hours work a week. Some of them don't. You just don't do 60 hours a week. If you actually add up 60 hours a week, that's a lot. That's 12 hours a day if you're just doing Monday to Friday, or 10 hours and then 6 hours at the weekend. Sometimes you just don't. People exaggerate, but a lot of people do. So that's not what I was saying. I'm just saying sometimes people like to exaggerate as teachers. It's still horrendously lots and stuff like that. That's why I felt a bit bad. But the real reason I felt bad is because I said, I just don't believe when people say to me they're doing 3 hours of work after school every evening. And my point was, I simply don't believe it because I don't understand how. I don't understand how you can fill 15 hours from Monday to Friday. I just didn't get it. I'm like, and I end up just, I don't believe you. And I'd love to sit in the room next to someone who said it from 6 till 9 every evening, watching what they do for 3 hours. Because two things, either they're doing it and I can't comprehend it. That's why I don't believe you, because I can't comprehend how insane your expectations are.
What could even exist?
What could even happen? Maybe it does. Or you're exaggerating a bit and you can maybe take control. And that's what I was getting at. I think teachers need to take control more, because it's easy to slip into this martyr environment of feeling constantly on. Yeah. And unless you actively go in and turn that off and say, no, I'm not doing it, I can see why people feel that way and feel like they're doing 3 hours a night. It's
a hard one, because it's a bit of a catch-22, because do you know what? I believe people that are saying they're working 3 hours a night. Yeah. And I believe it's because they are doing the job to 100%. And it's one of those weird things where I'm like, it sounds stupid for me to say, this is the kind of job where you cannot give it 100% all the time. That sounds like I'm just being like, be lazy, do less than you can. You literally can't. If you actually, like, it's endless, really. If you think about it, I could, if I wanted to, and I'm sure you could, I could spend 8 hours marking a single English lesson if I wanted to. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because I could like I could invent some crazy thing that I need to do for that.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, really.
Right?
Yeah.
And I agree. So I think a lot of these people, I've reckoned 99% of the people that are working hours every single evening after being at work for like 11 hours, like crazy long days, could probably just sit back, assess the situation, and cut back on some things.
Precisely.
By not giving 100%. That's the problem. When I spoke to people about this in the past, because I've known people that, like, closely that are like this, it's because they just want to do the job really, really, really well all the time. Whereas I've sort of already got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to sacrifice this little bit, this little bit, this little bit for the sake of my work-life balance. And it's not really going to make much difference. You know, they spent 3 hours marking those books. I spent 1 hour marking those books. And actually, the kids did the same amount of work, the same outcomes at the end of the year. I just didn't sacrifice 2 hours of my time, but maybe I don't look as good. Yeah, because the books don't look as good.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's always little things that you can compromise on.
And if you're in a toxic school, that's important.
Yeah.
Isn't it? How the books look becomes an important thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember getting drawn into that whole point of, you know, we'd have scrutiny on books, right? In this school we worked in where it was just horrendous. And the scrutiny would be sent to everyone, right? And it'd be like a tick box. So it'd be like 10 statements, and the more ticks, the better kind of thing. Yeah. And it would be like 3 peer reviews every week, 17 ticks on every lesson. Yeah. All this none of it about learning, just insane tick box crap. And you'd know someone else got 9 ticks out of 10, and you got 3 ticks out of 10. And you're just like, yeah, the only reason they got 9 instead of 3 was because they did hours of extra work unpaid in their overtime. And I completely get it. I can see why you would feel pushed into doing it, like you've got to. What I want to say to people is, you don't. If you're doing 3 hours of work every evening, you're doing too much. And it is not acceptable. It's because one of two things. Your school's completely toxic and you're being pushed to do so, and you need to stand up and not do it or move school eventually if it's still not a problem. Or you're pushing yourself too much and you need to take control a bit more. And that's, I feel really strongly about that. And I don't want to feel like I'm attacking people who work really hard or do this extra work and they already feel stressed. And then there's me going, oh, I don't believe you.
Just don't do it.
It's
a bit condescending. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, my point of saying I don't believe you is I don't believe that's necessary. No, just don't do it. And I'm passionate about it because I don't want you to get burnt out. Because you know what? If you're doing it, you're probably an amazing teacher because you're obsessed with doing the right thing for your kids.
Here's a little homework task for everyone then. Go and find the person in your school who does the least work, genuinely. And it might not be for best reasons, it might not be, but go and find them and literally just find out what they do. Why are they coming in at 7:45 and going home at 4 every day?
And saying they're not doing any work outside school.
And saying not doing work outside of school. You might not agree with all the things they're not doing. You might be thinking they're actually not doing some stuff they should be doing. But just go and find out what they are doing and find a middle ground, because if you're doing 20 more hours than them a week, but realistically you're getting similar outcomes each year and actually not much is changing and they're still employed and nothing actually bad is happening, they're just getting more of a life than you, then there might be something to learn from them. There might be something.
Absolutely. No, I think that was really a really good chat. I think we're going to round that off there. But yeah, September's coming. I wanted to round it off by just saying that every single end of August that comes around, this is my 10th now, which seems insane, I am excited. It doesn't matter. You forget all the other stuff. Maybe we had 6 weeks off. You forget what it's like when it's 5:30. You've still got a set of marking to do. What you do remember though, and what I'm so looking forward to, is my class of 32 children walking in on that first day. Being excited to be in school, all in their new uniforms and all sat down nice and ready, all brand new equipment, ready to learn some maths. And then I get to stand in front of them and teach them maths.
And not smile.
Until Christmas. But I get to teach them maths. I get to be excited. I get to build a safe space for them. I get to watch them progress. I get to watch them grow. I get to build relationships with them. There's something about September. It just gets me so excited. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love your passion. It is nice.
I don't know if you're
no, I do.
sarcastic or not.
You always get like really, really buzzed for the new year.
Yeah, because it's so exciting. You can mold them again. You know,
Yeah,
you can really take them on journeys and see
Yeah.
them progress. And whether, there'll be 5 kids who make amazing social progress across the year, and they'll make friends that they never made before. There'll be some kids who feel like they can't talk in the classroom, and then after 2 months they feel like they can talk to you, and they put their hand up, and it gets to December and this kid for the first time ever has done a home learning project because they got completely engrossed in something you taught
And you
them.
know what? Extremely selfishly, 10-year ago me coming out here, you get to see 32 kids just love you. Genuinely, because you work so hard to do the right thing for them, and if you do the right thing for them, they end up respecting you and they love you like family by the end of the year. It's crazy. And I love that feeling.
Yeah. And that is, if ever it got to the point where we didn't teach anymore, oh God, I'd struggle to ever replace that.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's what makes this probably the best job. I can't imagine doing another job completely and never doing this again. Horrible.
I'll start crying in a second. You will.
No, I won't.
Do you know who else I love? We're going to finish this off. I love our listeners. Thank you for listening. And like Dylan said, if there are a bunch of new people today, I hope these tips helped you. Well, not tips really, where they're more of a discussion, just some thoughts about starting September right.
And thanks for waiting around, letting us have our summer. We do appreciate it because you know what? I loved doing this podcast, but it was quite nice not to think about it for a couple of weeks. It was good.
It was needed.
We've done that. I really enjoyed that chat. I'm looking forward to this year. I think over this year, we're going to take another step in the podcast game, I reckon.
Oh.
Take it even more seriously.
Wow. First I'm hearing of
Get
this.
a new setup. It's not.
Trying to make it more dramatic, Dylan.
It's not. We spoke about this.
We spoke about this an hour ago, and I said I was going to say this.
We might even get a second camera. Who knows?
That'd be nice.
Maybe we'll move out of this studio, which is Hayden's third bedroom. Who knows? Nice. But yeah, guys, if you did enjoy this, please do follow us on Spotify. Please leave us a review. We're heading towards 100 on Spotify. We're over 100 on all platforms. 5-star reviews, but it really helps us. And if you could share it, give it to someone who's starting in September. Which teachers are starting in September? Oh yeah, all of them. Send it to all of your teacher friends. And yeah, guys, get in touch. We love hearing from you, and we'll be back next week.
Maybe.
I promise we will.
No, we will.
We will. Absolutely.
Maybe.
Definitely.
Right. See you then.
See you then.
Potentially.
Bye then. I want to speak last. Bye.